It's
Hater Sensei, Grandmaster Chosen One.
welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a Bruce Lee question. Yeah. This one comes from Ken Jitsuka, who says, who could Bruce Lee actually beat in a fight? He's asking this because there have been so many questions, not just on this channel, but all over the internet, about what would happen if Bruce Lee fought this professional fighting champion, or that UFC champion, or this boxing world champion, etc. And if you ask me a question like that, who would Bruce Lee in his prime, on his best day, beat out of a who's who list of world heavyweight fighting champions? Well, the world heavyweight fighting champion, yeah. We're comparing a beloved martial arts actor and martial arts philosopher and martial arts teacher with guys who fought for a living, who were really good at it, who were the best in the world. And yeah, I know this upsets people. I know this makes people angry. So we're not going to dwell on this too long. But the idea, this fictional idea that Bruce Lee, a 135-pound martial arts actor, and people get very upset when I call him an actor, even though that's what Bruce Lee himself wanted to be called. If you watch his famous interview where he said, "Be like water, my friend," in that same interview, if you watch the whole thing, I can't post a clip of it here on this video, otherwise it will get copyright claimed by Shannon Lee. It will. I've tried it before. In that same video, he says he wants to be known as an actor. He wants to be remembered not as a superstar, not as a star, man, not as a martial arts legend or an icon or a myth or any of that crap. He wants to be remembered as a good actor. And he was. He was a great actor. I love Bruce Lee's acting. If you watch, for example, Fist of Fury, oh man, he was the personification of fury. He channeled his anger into that role. It was brilliant, and I think a lot of that gets lost if you watch the dubbed-over version. If you watch it in the original Cantonese, you can hear it in his voice. You can see it in his face. You can see the inflections and the tones and so on. It's a brilliant performance of an angry young man with that young man's ego just bubbling over the top. It's great. Bruce Lee was a great actor, right? He was a martial artist too. He grabbed a lot of attention. He got folks interested. You know this. You know all this, right? Who could Bruce Lee actually beat, right? He's not going to beat the world heavyweight fighting champions of history. It's not going to happen. Who would he actually beat? Let's compare Bruce Lee to his own people, martial arts actors. Who could Bruce Lee actually beat? I think Bruce Lee, in a tournament of martial arts actors, would probably be one of the better ones. If you got, say, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Jet Li, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Chuck Norris, all these other guys, well, I think Chuck Norris would probably beat most of them because he had probably the most fighting experience, because most of these guys didn't have any fighting experience. But I think Bruce Lee would have done really well in a tournament of martial arts actors. If you throw Donnie Yen in there, Donnie Yen actually knows a lot about fighting. Donnie Yen knows a lot about fighting. So that would be an interesting matchup. Bruce Lee versus Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen is a phenomenal choreographer and stuntman and martial arts actor, but he does know quite a few things about fighting. I've worked with some members of his stunt team in the past. These guys are very knowledgeable. They're very physical. Right? They're very strong, very athletic. They know what's what. They keep themselves fluent in the language of martial arts, not just fight choreography, but they get out there and train for real, man. So I think Donnie Yen would do very well in a tournament of martial arts actors as well. So yeah, Bruce Lee, who would he beat? I think he would beat Jet Li, this is for sure. I don't know what would go on between a contest of Jean-Claude Van Damme and Bruce Lee. This is interesting. Jean-Claude Van Damme definitely has a size advantage, a weight advantage.
Can I laugh in your face?
And he may have a competitive advantage as well because he did have more fight experience. Not a great deal. He competed in karate tournaments in Europe, and even this is a little bit disputed, but there is some footage of it.
Can I laugh in your face?
And there are enough substantiating claims to suggest that he was in fact a karate competitor in Europe back in the day. So that's not nothing. And you might think, well, that was just karate. That was just sport karate. Look, if you have a lot of amateur experience, even if it's in sport karate or jiu-jitsu or judo or some limited style that isn't a full knockout, drag-out brawl, or a no-rules type of affair, or a cage fight or something like that, amateur experience is very significant. This is the time where a fighter learns to cope with some really important things, such as performance anxiety, okay? Dealing with stress under pressure. Fighting against someone who is high on adrenaline in any capacity, this is extremely valuable. And if you don't have this experience going into a fight, and most of these martial arts actors do not, and Bruce Lee had very little of this. He had some. He had a schoolboy boxing match back in Hong Kong. A lot of people grossly misattribute Bruce Lee as being the national boxing champion of Hong Kong. No, he had one high school boxing match against Gary Elms, another high school kid, who had a total record of 1-0. And we're talking about 2-minute boxing matches. 1 round, 2-minute boxing matches. Okay? Bruce beat Gary Elms on points via judge's decision. You can see about 5 black and white photographs of this fight, and both of these kids are just winging haymakers from man, it's crazy. I wish I could see a video of this. It would be amazing. I think it would open up a lot of the fans' eyes and make them think, oh man, Bruce Lee doesn't really look good in this fight. Well, no kidding. You didn't really know how to fight very well back then. It was his first foray into a boxing ring, and everybody's first fight sucks. Man, everybody's first fight sucks. And you might say, well, Bruce Lee got into street fights. Yeah, he got into an altercation in the bathroom at school. And the Catholic priest who was overseeing the school ran into Bruce Lee, caught him in the bathroom fighting with another kid, and said, hey, take your aggression out in the boxing ring, which is why he ended up in that boxing match with Gary Elms. Right? Because he was getting in fights in the bathroom at school with some other kids because he had a temper. He had a bad temper. Yeah, he got into some scraps with kids at school. And for some reason, people want to talk this up like Bruce Lee was out there destroying supervillains with his fists. That didn't happen, man. He was a scrappy kid who got into scraps at school. And his first boxing match, it wasn't pretty. You can see that from the photographs. You can tell a lot from a still photograph if you are an astute observer. I've had some people say, you can't tell anything from those photographs. Yeah, you can. You can. And if you can't, you haven't trained enough. And you certainly haven't fought enough. Bruce Lee got better. He had a little bit more experience. He had one other documented fight. He has a lot of other alleged fights, which may or may not have happened, but one other documented fight that has multiple corroborating witnesses, which actually whose testimony would stand up in a court of law if it went to it. Right? Bruce Lee only has 2 fights with enough corroborating witnesses to prove that they probably happened. The other one was with Wong Jack Man, and the accounts of this vary greatly. The most realistic sounding account sounds like it was not a very spectacular event. They got into a scrap, they exchanged some punches, they ran around a little bit, Bruce tackled the other guy, punched him on the ground, Wong Jack Man gave up, according to Linda Lee's account. Bruce was very tired and upset with his performance, and he wanted to get better, and he decided to train more athletically because he felt he sucked. He felt like, man, if that's how I'm going to perform against some kung fu nerd, imagine if I fought somebody real, man. Forget about it. So, Bruce Lee. Would he beat Jackie Chan? I think so. Jackie Chan's cool. He's a great stuntman. I love the fact that he did most of his own stunts in his movies. Maybe even all of his own stunts. I don't know. The rumor is that he performed all of his own stunts. I assume probably most of them. But as far as fighting ability, yeah, I think Bruce Lee could probably take him. Because Bruce Lee, like I said, he was a very good actor. But that fury, that anger, that aggression, that drive to aggression that he channeled in his role in Fist of Fury, I think that came from a genuine place. Either he was a brilliant method actor and he just pulled that out of his butt, or it came from a genuine place, and Bruce Lee was able to channel raw aggression into a fight. And this is important. It is important. Aggression is an important attribute. It's part of the fight psychology that every successful fighter needs. And I think there are a lot of great actors who simply lack that. I think Bruce Lee probably had that. Probably. I don't have any evidence of that. I don't have any... It's just what I feel, and I think this is what most Bruce Lee fans go on when we discuss hypothetical fights like this. Our gut tells us Bruce Lee was probably a tough guy, right? He was probably good at martial arts. He probably knew how to punch and kick. He was probably as fast as his friend said he was. But he was also humble enough to admit his shortcomings. In a very Chinese way, and Bruce Lee was from Hong Kong. He didn't grow up in mainland China. He never went to mainland China. He grew up in British Hong Kong. He was an American citizen growing up in British Hong Kong, but in a very Chinese traditional way. When asked about his abilities, like how good are you at fighting, he would often answer something like this: "If I tell you I'm no good, then you know I'm lying. But if I brag and say, oh yeah, I'm the best, then yeah, you know I'm just being an idiot." I'm paraphrasing here. Because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's undefeatable. "12 minutes into this video, we've discussed two actors I think Bruce Lee could beat. Jackie Chan, Jet Li. Yeah, I think he would kick both of those guys' butts. As good as they were at their fight choreography. What other martial arts actors do we have? Chuck Norris. I think Chuck Norris would win, and I think Chuck knew that too. And I think Bruce Lee knew that too. And I know a lot of the fans will be very upset because in that one movie in the Coliseum, Bruce Lee's character defeated Chuck Norris's character, but I think in an actual fight, Chuck would have whooped him. Would have been a fun fight to watch, though. It wouldn't have been entirely one-sided. They would have gone at it karate style. It would have been fun. It would have been epic, I think. It would have been fun. But I think Chuck would have won. But Chuck is humble enough and he loves the memory of his friend and his colleague Bruce Lee enough that he would never outright just say, yeah, I would have beaten Bruce Lee. But I think he knows. I think we all know deep down. Who else? Steven Seagal versus Bruce Lee. I think Bruce Lee is the better fighter, but Steven Seagal has such a massive weight advantage. Such a massive weight advantage. I think because of Steven Seagal's size, he could just eat the impact of Bruce's strikes and sit on him.
Can I laugh in your face?
I mean, this is sad. This makes me sad to say, but I think Steven Seagal would beat Bruce Lee in a fight. But even Steven Seagal, as proud and non-humble as he often is in his interviews when discussing how good he is compared to other martial arts actors, I think he's still humble enough and respects Bruce Lee enough to never admit that. But I think prime, not older, more out of shape, more overweight Steven Seagal, but prime Steven Seagal, I think he would squash Bruce Lee simply by virtue of size. Man, that's not nothing. And I know a lot of you angry little guys who want to believe that you can beat the world heavyweight champions are steaming in your ears right now at that, but it's true. Size makes that much of a difference when you know a little bit about fighting. If you don't know anything about fighting, yeah, little guy who knows a little bit about fighting can beat up some big wimps. But we're not talking about big wimps here. We're talking about a big guy who actually knows a few things about fighting. You can discuss how much Steven Seagal knew about fighting, but let's be honest, he knows a few things about fighting. What other famous martial arts movie stars do we have? Tony Jaa. I think Tony Jaa would beat Bruce Lee. I think he would. And I think it's simply because, now Tony, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have any professional fights, but he grew up in Thai culture, he grew up around Muay Thai culture, and I imagine, and again, this is just me going on instincts here, I imagine he has probably had a lot more experience with real fight training. He's probably gotten in the ring with actual Muay Thai fighters who do this for a living. In spite of not having fought professionally, I think he's just too physical. He's too physical, too strong, too athletic for Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was great. We always rave about his athleticism. He did wonders to get martial artists to start thinking about cross-training in weightlifting and strength training and things like that. And bravo, I love Bruce Lee for that. I think that was one of his major contributions to the world of martial arts back at a time where martial artists thought if they touched a weight, they would freeze in their tracks and become, I can't move, I'm too muscle-bound now. Ah. People really thought like that. A lot of people still think like that. But yeah, I think Tony Jaa would win. It would be a fun fight to watch, though. Other martial arts actors, man, I should have made a list before this because I can't think of any. Where's Viking Samurai when you need him, man? He's probably watching this like, what about this guy? What about that? He's makes all these videos about all the martial arts actors of the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. What martial arts actors do you think Bruce Lee could beat? And I bet a lot of you are writing, all of them, Ramsey, all of them. Bruce Lee was indestructible, and he would defeat your precious UFC champions too. Man. If that makes you happy, if that makes you feel empowered to believe that, great, great. If that makes your day a better day, go on believing that. That harms no one. Thanks for watching. Get out there and train.